Once I was 7 and a boomerang hit me in the nose and broke my nose in two. Can you believe that? My
Oh,
nose was like moving around my face for about 4 weeks after that. Thinking of
that's
resurrecting Pogo. What do you think? Just to wind Pogo up, just to see how long it would take to get Pogo annoyed. Like, I think what's interesting is, a lot of the about 66, 67, the kind of free love Woodstock kind of vibe, defined to some degree, I think, how we see the 60s when we look back, among a few other things. But in terms of socio-cultural moves, then that all was happening later on in the 60s. And I heard Dennis Hopper talking about Easy Rider and how that was the first film that really kind of reflected that socio-cultural revolution out of the studio system, because no studio films, they weren't really acknowledging what was going on with that. And Easy Rider was so affecting because it was the first kind of filmic representation of, no, there's this kind of movement based on love going on, and there's a lot of people into it and involved, and here's some of those characters in that film. Not Easy Rider. What am I talking about? Yeah, Easy Rider. Yeah. Dennis Hopper. Yeah. Sorry, in my head I got mixed up with James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause, there for a minute. And we were out in this field, and it was a big circle. And I think the shot is in the trailer where we all look up to the sky like this. But this was me going, look, instead of let us pray, let's go, let us all commune with the infinite, and then do this kind of, and it was quite a powerful thing when we had 200 people in a circle all doing that together, going. It felt like we were summoning extraterrestrials, possibly. That'd be a
did
nice, because there is the Raelians, isn't there? The Raelians are in Florida, aren't they? I think. And they're run by a French dude called Nicholas Rael. They're basically a sex cult, but they believe that all life on Earth was seeded by extraterrestrials. So I'd imagine they probably do rituals that are to do with summoning aliens to Earth all the time and cuddling.
Justin, I mean, I love that we get to see more of Ben this season, of course, and I think it's interesting because we are largely learning about who he is as he's bouncing off of Klaus, as kind of a reflection of him. Is Klaus the right fit for him?
Yeah, I feel like they're yin and yang, you know.
And there's a little lesson in there for any of you Republicans and Democrats listening or watching. See? You guys need each other. It's push and pull. You're the yin to the other's yang. Just accept it.
Huh, interesting parallels there. Did not put that together initially, but
There you go. See, the Ben and Klaus relationship.
yeah,
It's a whole allegory for modern American
modern
politics.
politics, yeah.
Presidential posters now.
Klaus and Ben arc is like my favorite of the season, and Robert, I mean this in the best way possible, but this role of like an enigmatic cult leader suits you pretty well.
I'll take that as a compliment, yeah.
Oh, it's definitely a compliment. Were you surprised about the direction that the show went with Klaus this season?
I just said, you know what, Steve, let's make him more like Jesus. And lo and behold, me and Steve had talked a fair bit between seasons, sort of throwing ideas around about, Klaus being at his most interesting when he's kind of at that turn of change, when he's sort of in the process of transformation into something else, which is very vague language for saying that he's sort of a chimera of a creature. If he's sort of resting anywhere for too long, he sort of starts to spin and is looking for his next incarnation, which always, I think, feeds his ego to some, definitely our Klaus is somewhat of a narcissist. So I was like, a cult we were like, a cult leader could well be a really, like, legit, especially if we're doing the 1960s. That would be a very, very kind of obvious way to kind of go with Klaus. Like, I mean, it's surprising if he didn't end up a cult leader, like Jesus.
Right. Justin, would you join Robert's cult?
Absolutely not.
No.
Well, you wouldn't necessarily get an invitation, you hear me?
Oh, there it is.
You have to subscribe, like Netflix, the cult of Netflix.
Oh, there's like a monthly fee. Yeah.
10.99 a month. You see, that's where Jim Jones and them other lads went wrong. You see, they wanted all the money up front.
I love the running joke. It's kind of just slyly revealed that Klaus is using a lot of song lyrics to to win over followers. Is there a musician or artist or even specific song that you can think of that you're like, yeah, I love that. I would devote myself to that musician fully.
Ooh, devote myself. Well, I wouldn't devote myself to anything fully. Who, musician wise, I've been into a lot recently is Fela Kuti. That guy was pretty amazing, and but he had enough devotees in his day. He had 28 wives, but he was quite something else when it came to music making. He was quite something else. So he'd be worth following around, going to his gigs, being a groupie, definitely.
And we're almost out of time, but Justin, for you?
Gerard Way, obviously.
Yeah.
Probably follow him as well with that.
Yeah, why not? The Pied Piper.
Yeah. I'd lead you into a cave and then put you in a sack and just like the old rap problem.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.
Ben, I guess I'll go to you first. What? Oh wow, I just totally said Ben. Justin.
Good. I'm used.
I bet you get that all the time. Well, as I want to say, Justin playing Ben. How have you gotten used to playing a ghost? Essentially, like how do you keep yourself in that mind frame? Like on set, are people just trying to acting like they don't see you as you walk from like set to set, or?
Yeah, it's really interesting because they always have to tell all of our extras not to look at me when we have extras on in a scene. And one of my favorite running pranks on the show is whenever we have a family scene to try and get the other cast members to look at me or to respond to me when they're not supposed to. Robert has mastered it, so he completely ignores me whenever I'm in. Gotten too good at it. But yeah, I think in general it was just about learning the technicality of not being able to touch anything, right? I can't really open doors, I can't pick up objects, and as an actor you're sort of used to doing that in a scene.
Right.
It was about training myself not to do those things, and I've gotten really good with my eyebrow movements, and conveying a lot to with just my eyes.
All right, I'm going to toss it over to Angelica because Angelica, I know you got a burning question for Robert.
I do. I actually have a burning question for both Justin and Robert. So your banter, I feel like, for me, is the highlight, one of the highlights of the show. So you guys improv, it's a little bit of slapstick comedy. You guys are hitting each other in a trailer. How do you guys play off each other?
Just sort of just shoot from the hip and hope for the best. And the nice thing about our environment, I suppose, is you can get it wrong a few times before you can get it right, So really, I mean, script there, add a bit of pepper if a good idea comes to you. That's it, really.
Yeah, our directors and our showrunner, Steve Blackman, they've been so nice about giving us the freedom to experiment and play around. So obviously we'll do a few takes where, we sort of read it clean from the script, and then we'll get a couple of takes where we just kind of mess around and have some fun. And obviously Robert will do something crazy, unexpected, and you just gotta flow with it. You gotta flow with it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Angelica, you got one more?
Sure. So Klaus is semi-sober this season. So how did you approach your
Fully
character?
sober this season, yeah.
Fully sober this season.
He needs to kick off anyway, ladies,
So how did you approach him now that he's on the straight and narrow?
Well, he's been sort of drunk on the extremely loud motorcycle going past my place. He was sort of extremely drunk on the adoration of thousands of cult followers instead, I think his unconscious behaviors led him to find a replacement for the narcoticos, He's someone who's just quintessentially unable to be alone And why is that? Because he's fucked in the head, probably.
Very
Oh,
codependent.
And now he
Yeah.
has followers, so he got to be doing something right, I'm assuming.
I don't know though. By that logic, you'd say Jim Jones is, a real saint. But he, I suppose, someone who took drugs to get rid of the dead or stop them from showing up, automatic resurrection. I think took drugs to also forget that he was alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how it's an easy way to forget you're alone by starting a cult, or to avoid being alone.
Right,
So,
or have your brother with you all the time.
Yeah.
yeah. So that's kind of where he is in the second series. He's in the same place really to some degree or another.
Well, Justin, Robert, we want to thank you guys so much. And you
Pleasure,
guys
lady.
kill it in the second season. It's so much fun, so hilarious. So I can't wait to talk to you again for season 3. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, let's knock some wood. It's almost there. We'll be around for the third season.
Bye. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds. Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds.
Nice to meet you, and thank you so much for your time today.
Pleasure.
Nice. Last scene that you guys shoot was the last scene in the season?
Because
Well,
they trying to keep it secret.
They should have shot it on day one. Keep it secret.
And then, because in the first one we were introduced to it, but I felt there were a lot of space to explore it. How was for you guys to work in this dynamic?
It was like always. It's like any kind of relationship in your life or friendship that's worth holding on to. You pick it up where you left off, even if it's 10 years down the road.
I think we start to see.
Just to throw in on top of it, I've been reading the Gaucho Martin Fierro.
You read the Martin Fierro?
Yeah, I managed to get a copy of it from 1962, actually. I think
Really?
like 2 or 64. Yeah.
Did you enjoy the poetry in it?
It's amazing, but of course I'm reading it in English. So there was a Glaswegian fella called Walter Owen thought that the way towards peace was translation, which I thought was quite cool.
It's super difficult to adapt it because it's an ancient Argentinian dialect right now. So
That's
I really
it.
appreciate that you're interested in this, in our culture.
How would you guys describe the evolution of your brotherly relationship in this season?
I'd say it takes several official steps towards breaking point in a sort of a strange and somewhat sexy way.
You know what? Remember when I told you the engine was overheating? Yeah, well, being smart doesn't make you interesting. Neither does your beard.
Justin, if you could actually possess Robert's body for a day in real life, what would you do? How would you mess with his life?
Go on there, Justin.
I don't know. I think it would be overwhelming first and foremost to be in Robert Sheehan's body. I don't know if I could deal with the hordes of ladies coming after me. I would probably hide somewhere.
Run naked down Oxford Street.
When Ben died again, kind of saving Vanya, can you explain kind of what happened there with his character? Is he now officially dead?
One really be dead in the Umbrella Academy universe, but it seems so. It seems so when he dissipated into a million lights. That might be the last version of that particular Ben that we see.
Why did that happen? Was it did it have something to do with Vanya's powers specifically that kind of turned him into lights, as it were?
Yeah, so it has to do with Vanya's power, but it also has to do with the fact that she's actually tied to that electrical current chair, and all of those currents sort of start to rewire and mess things up, and it actually starts to affect Ben, and he knows that immediately as he starts to possess her, but he knows what he has to do in order to save his family and essentially the world, so he still goes through with it. But he sort of knows going in that he won't be coming back.
When he died, did you know that Ben was going to be coming back in the way that's revealed at the end of the season?
Absolutely not. I actually thought that scene with Vanya was going to be my last scene, and it was quite emotional, right? Because I thought I was saying goodbye to the show, and I was hugging the camera guys and the sound guys and our hair and makeup people, thanking them for everything that they've done. And then a few weeks later, Steve Blackman, our showrunner, sent just the cast the last 3 pages of episode 10, and you know, I was just in my Toronto apartment and I just started to scream because I was absolutely shocked and yeah, thankful and excited and all of those things.
Do you know how he died on the mission? And if there's a season 3, will we finally get that answer?
I don't know. I don't know if Gerard 100% knows. We have both talked about different ideas. I know that's a big part of what he wants to do in the graphic novel. I've sort of pitched him some of my thoughts, but ultimately I want Gerard to decide that. I think it's something that's important for Gerard in the series, and I like him to sort of figure that one out. I'm happy to help him and do it, but you know, I'm waiting for him to sort of let me know how he thinks it happened.
Yeah, what does it feel now playing, being able to play Ben as like an actual entity, not a ghost the whole time?
It's gonna be an adjustment, to be honest. I've gotten so used to being invisible and not being able to touch things or open doors. It's gonna be an adjustment, but I'm really excited. I mean, the first version of Ben, the ghost Ben, I sort of was able to build from the ground up because there was not really a reference point in the comic books. And I'm so lucky and excited to kind of get to do that again with this Sparrow Academy Ben, because there's not really a reference point to that either. So to sort of be able to be on a show and do that twice, I mean, what a privilege and what a gift. And it's sort of the things that actors dream of.
Robert, when Vanya deals to Klaus, Ben's last words, do you feel like that really does help Klaus come to some sort of closure with his relationship with Ben?
Yeah. You know, I think he was guilty, very guilty, because of that start scene in episode 10 where he feels like he sort of cheated Ben a bit out of you know, skipping through the Elysian fields or whatever you're supposed to do when you're dead. And down in Hades playing blackjack with Mother Teresa and Hitler.
I'm sad that they cut that scene with you and the ghosts when you were looking for Ben.
Oh yeah, are you? I'm not that sad about that, to be honest.
I didn't see it, but
wait, what? There's a scene where you're looking. What? There's a scene where you go into the ghost world?
No, but once Ben is gone in 9, in 10. I've summoned a load of random ghosts, and I'm going, is there any chance that you've seen this guy? He's sort of got coiffy, Elvisy hair and sort of and so on and so forth. But yeah, I think the sadness for Klaus is it's a double-sided coin. Or, you know, on the one hand, he's sad to see Ben go because he'll miss Ben. But he's also scared and sad for himself because I suppose he doesn't know how to be. He doesn't know how to act without kind of Ben, the great leveler, on his shoulder, you know?
Mm-hmm. Justin, how do you interpret the ending? Do you think the Ben we see at the end is similar to the Ben who died? Do you think their powers are the same?
I think the powers could be quite similar, but in terms of everything else, I mean, he's completely different. I mean, you know, from his hair, from the scar that runs along his face, I think the producers and Steve and I and the hair and makeup people, we all sort of discussed ways that we could sort of make him seem and feel as different as possible, because sort of this completely new version of Ben that we're seeing, sort of this antagonistic figure to the family. So yeah, it's weird to play almost like a complete opposite of a person that you played.
What do you hope we're going to see from Ben in season 3 now that he's out of the ghost realm and a new version of him exists?
I hope...
Dancing.
No dancing.
You're alive now. You got to dance, baby.
I hope that, you know, he can find what he wants, right? I mean, he's no longer tethered to someone else to achieve what he desires. And I think it will be fun to play someone who is alive and is visible and seen by his siblings and the rest of the world, and to see what he will be doing alongside the Sparrow Academy, which it seems like it's being set up as the main enemy of a potential season 3, which is really exciting. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see both academies go toe to toe with each other.
What aspects of your character were you most excited to expand upon and explore in this season?
I wanted to give Klaus all that lovely cult leader baggage. He's been somewhere surrounded by kind of adoring worshippers. So that was kind of my challenge going in, Alex.
But firstly, my first question is for you, Robert. What was it like when you found out that you were going to be a cult leader? What was your initial reaction to that?
I was delighted because I thought, nice one, I've got a practice run before the real thing, you know what I mean? That's why I'm growing the hair out. You can't have a cult with short hair. It just doesn't work, you know. It's like having a talk show with no plants.
That's true. That is true.
So yeah, myself and Steve during the interim was firing ideas around, and you know, a cult seemed like the best one, the sauciest one for a Klaus that gets a manipulator that gets dropped into the early 60s and has all of this perspicacious foresight to you know, artillery from the future that he can use to kind of dupe naive people from the late 1950s entering the early 1960s, you know.
For sure. And Justin, for you, this season, we see you interacting more with the cast, more with Klaus, and getting to do more things. So what was that like, just coming back for this season and knowing you're going to have a major role? I don't want to talk about spoilers, but just in general, you'd have more things to do.
It was exciting. It was you know, I was so fortunate, you know, last season to be a part of the show. I didn't really know to what extent I would be asked to come back for season 2, and for Steve and the writers to believe in sort of Ben's storyline and to continue to increase that. You know, absolutely thankful and excited for, and yeah, I think Ben gets his due finally in terms of being able to finally have a bit of independence and agency this season, as Klaus's powers continue to evolve and change and grow.
And speaking of that, so this dynamic between you guys, what was it like working together? This question is for both of you, but what was that like, just building that relationship? Because you guys do have a lot more scenes together, physically and just emotionally. So what was that like?
Tantrums, right? He's the bit, I tell you, he's a diva. If you don't have a glazed donut on a silver platter at 11 o'clock in the morning, he bursts into tears. But you know, that's the trade-off, you know. That's when you get the talent, you get all the hang-ups as well, you know what I mean? Talk about projecting. No, but it was always great crack, and it's been very, very effortless from day one with myself and Justin Min. We've been very, very lucky to have someone to argue with so fun, you know, who's so fun and so easy breezy, you know, and such a very, very great tennis player. And like, you know, to be honest, I really, really love TV that sort of that keeps things rolling, keeps things going. You know, I sometimes think, not on our show in fairness, but sometimes some things I watch, sometimes I see actors taking lots of like middle distance pauses and sighs and stuff, and basically dropping their cues, you know, which in theater is a mortal sin, you know, unless there's a reason for it. You pick up the cue at the end of that line, you say your line, you know, and that's because there's people listening, there's people as an audience. And that's what's great about me and Justin, is that it's just a very organic tennis, and we bounce off each other really easily. So
well, I'm getting the wrap up sign, so I just want to say thank you guys so much for sitting down and talking with me. Absolutely love season 2, and thank you guys, and thank you, Justin, for interacting with fans on social media. They are crazy, and you put up with them, so you're crazy. Thank you, man.
Talk to you, Justin. Nice one, Dorian.
You guys have a great day. Peace out.
All the best. It's a bit like Love and Marriage, you know, the Bundy family. Did you ever see that sitcom? It's basically that. You know, just sort of slightly abstracted.
This power to see the dead people and just enjoy like
dead, yeah.
Yeah, and just enjoy like a shadow, like a partner. How could you describe it?
He's a ghost. He's a ghost that Klaus can resurrect to a certain extent because of his powers, and no one else can see him except Klaus, except for towards the end of the first season when Klaus's abilities grow and he's sort of able to make him visible for the first time. So they're inextricably tied to each other because of Klaus's abilities. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about the ethnic diversity, you know, I think that's one of the things that Gerard Way, after writing the comics, really wanted to make sure the show had, because it wasn't necessarily represented in the comics. So I'm very, very thankful and glad that Steve Blackman took it upon himself to create this diverse family from very diverse ethnic backgrounds, which makes sense because, you know, 43 babies, you know, were born around the world. And then in terms of like thought diversity, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you have every different kind of character and opinion in that family. When they did together, there was a lot of conflict.
So Robert,
you look lovely today, may I say?
Are those palm leaves?
Yes, and I got some little leaves in my nails to match.
Oh.
This is my only excuse to look like a human today.
You look fab. I wish I'd made an effort, but alas, as you can see, I haven't.
You're playing already.
You flirt, you.
So I wanted to first thank both of you. I was going through such a rough time last week while I was watching The Umbrella Academy Season 2, and your scenes alone just brought so much joy and laughter to my life. So thank you so, so much.
Oh, well, that's nice to hear. Thanks, Sharonda.
Thank you.
So Robert, what I wanted to ask you first with Klaus, you know, one of the things that we talked so much about how things were so different just like a couple of years ago or 50 years ago in relation to this season. And I wanted to know, how was it portraying Klaus as he's really thrusted back into this part in time where he can't love, you know, who he wants to love, you know?
Yeah, he can't. You're right. You know, that was, I believe, illegal in Texas, wasn't it, at the time? So instead, he just says, you know, might as well distract myself from all that pain and start a cult. Woo! Let's go. And, you know, exploit some suggestible people instead. So really, I suppose the cult is a sort of an anesthetic, a kind of a coping mechanism, you know. So how does to play that? You know, you just have to kind of follow your nose, really, you know, moment to moment, and try and live in the moment and be spontaneous, you know. And I think with you know, with me, I kind of find you just kind of have to find the meaning in it in every single moment, and then let the writing kind of do all that work, you know.
And Justin, for you with Ben's character, I always feel so sorry for Ben because I'm just like, Ben just wants to be a part of his family, just wants to know that everyone to know that he's there. So I wanted to know, how is it filming these scenes where you really you're a part of this codependent relationship with Klaus, but you're still invisible to the rest of the world? No, it definitely does. But I want to ask the question for the both of you: how many takes is it to finish a scene? Because I literally had to pause almost every scene that you two are in together, with Klaus spilling the tea of the future without people knowing about it through music. How long does it take you guys to literally just get through one scene? And Robert, you go first.
It can take it so depends on a million things. Either there's 7 or 8 different departments, all who could be fussy, and then there's the acting department who can get fussy about things and about depicting them in the right way. And it certainly varies, but ultimately I'd say probably, I mean, it's more how many setups, because each setup you do maybe four or five takes of, but then because it's the Umbrella Academy, we do 1 million setups for each scene, So yeah, you're looking at a good sort of 4 or 5 hours per scene, I'd say, of constant showing off, or more like sort of 100-meter dash style showing off. You know what I mean? You sit there and then you go up and do the showing off, and then you sit down again like this for another 20 minutes.
And Justin?
In those scenes. So
well, thank you so much for talking to me. I appreciate it.
Nice one, Sharanda. Keep being fab.
Thank you.